All right, thanks for joining me. I'm Megan Jax. Today is September 20th for Scrapbook Live. We've got people joining in from all over. If you are watching this live, on Facebook, the post has the directions how to get to the layout or the handout on my blog. If you are watching this on YouTube later, there'll be a link in the description on YouTube so you can get yourself to the handout. If you do go to my blog and you're not already subscribed, if you'd like to subscribe, there is an option to do so. Then you'll have all of these wonderful handouts delivered directly to your inbox. Well, it's actually a link to the blog post that has the handout. I would also encourage you to subscribe to the Creative Memories blog so that you get notification when they do put the wonderful layouts on there. All of these layouts, or most of the stuff that I do for Scrapbook Live, is from the Creative Memories blog, just wanting to show you ways that you can adapt all those great ideas to work for you, for your whatever supplies you have available, whatever photos you're working with, the tools you have. That's really what Scrapbook Live is all about, just learning how to adapt and make it work for you. So for today's layout, we're going clear back to 2018, right? Yeah, 2018. And we're going to have a 2-page layout that featured the pumpkin spice collection. And I'm going to be using the Golden Harvest, the Golden Harvest collection, which was last year's fall collection. The reason I'm using Golden Harvest is I am doing some pumpkin patch pictures. These are from last September, early October. We took Cody to the pumpkin patch, and I already have scrapped some of these pages or some of these pictures using Golden Harvest. So I want to stay with that same collection, but this is going to work out really well. So hopefully you have the handout, a pen or a pencil so you can take some notes if you want. There's areas where I'm using the blog posts for some inspiration, and then I am going to be adding more photos, showing you kind of, this one sets itself up really well for one of my favorite really quick and easy page layouts. And so we'll talk about how we do that. So I'm going to switch over here to my, my overhead camera, and we will go ahead and get started. All right, so I have some photos today. These, like I said, are from the pumpkin patch that we took Cody to. It's actually, if you're from Washington State at all, it's Stalker Farms down in Snohomish, Washington. And my middle child works at Stalker Farms, and so it's really fun. It's a great little layout. They have all sorts of stuff. We took Cody on one day. It has to have been in either late September or early October. It was before all the nasty smoke rolled in last year from the forest fires, but hopefully that will avoid all that this year. But here's the layout that we're doing. It's from September 5th of 2018. There is the QR code at the top if you want to go straight to the original Creative Memories blog. I have copied and pasted and formatted the directions from the blog here. And if you do want to share your creation later, you can do so on my Scrapbooking with Megan Facebook group. Use the hashtag ScrapbookLive0920 so that you can see that. I did mention earlier, I'll talk, I did see a question about signing up for the blog. I will see at the end of the video if I'm able to maybe screen share how to sign up for the blog. My blog, hopefully you already signed up for Creative Memories. Maybe we'll talk about both, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so I need 2 base pages. You could easily make this a single page, just do all of this fancy stuff over here. You've got a couple of 4x6 photos. If you really want to keep it simple, adding more photos, use peekaboo pockets, right? That's the great thing about whenever you have 4x6 photos, or you have 4x4 or 3x4, we have those size of peekaboo pockets that are really easy to add more photos to your layouts. However, I needed some different things here because I have a lot of vertical photos in here. This has more horizontal with the way that they put the border kind of down the middle. I needed some room for more horizontal and or vertical, excuse me, and I was going to have to like peekaboo a bunch on one spot where I really wanted to showcase a bunch. So we're going to make some adjustments here. The first thing though that we're going to do is we are going to focus on getting the decorative elements done, which is this kind of a stacked little scraps of paper. They're 1x4 inches. We're coming in here and we're going to make this side right there. You can see I've already got my pattern, my colors picked out, but we'll talk about that. So this is a great layout if you have just scraps of paper, right? We just need 1x4 inch pieces, they do talk about having a couple of pieces that are a little bit larger, 2 that are 4 by 1 1/4, so a little bit taller. They've used that where they're using, you can see here if I'll pull it up closer, where they're using the pumpkin paper. And I think the reason that they chose to go with that is because that pumpkin paper at 1 inch, you kind of weren't seeing a lot of the pumpkin. So if you give yourself a little bit more space there, you have a little bit more of the pumpkin showing. So that way your pumpkins don't feel crowded in that 1 inch block. So that's something to consider. If you have a pattern that doesn't do well with the 1 inch, it's only 1 inch tall and you need to give it a bit more space, go ahead and cut it a little bit bigger. It just needs to be 4 inches wide. The height can be adjusted to whatever you need. So they went to 1 1/4 inch for those pumpkins. If you have a pattern that needs to be 1 1/2 inch, go ahead, put it at 1 1/2 inch. So you've got some flexibility in spacing in these bars here. You could have some at 1 inch, some 1 1/2, some at 3/4. It really just depends on how you want that overall piece to look. And then we're going to create 2 12-inch border pieces that will span horizontally across both pages. They do use, it looks like they've cut a 4.5 by 6.5 inch map for a 4 by 6 photo, and then they have 4 horizontal 4 by 6 photos, a little bit of a banner flag detail over on the right-hand page. I don't know if I'm going to have room for that. Really what I'm going to focus on is this element here, the stacked bars, and then coming across both pages with that horizontal, the horizontal border here. Okay, so my photos, like I said, are from the pumpkin patch. What I liked about this layout is what I liked about the layout is I knew I could move this horizontal border up and down. So usually when I see a border across the middle, I know if I bump it up, I can have horizontal 4 by 6s or just 4 inch photos at the top. So I'm going to be able to come in here with some 4 inch photos. They're 4 inches tall. This is a 4 by 6. This over here is a little bit closer to maybe a 5.5 inches wide. I've cropped it down. These across the bottom are 6 inches tall, but I have cropped them in so they're only about 3.5 inches wide. The reason I did that is I wanted to go ahead and make sure I had the background paper showing through as my mat, kind of giving me that look. This configuration is one I love, right? We've seen it in the multi pocket pages, the multi photo pocket pages that we have, the Creative Memories has. I think theirs are set up so that you have to use horizontal. I think it's set up in this configuration. We have two horizontal, or 2 vertical, 3 horizontal. The great thing about doing your own configuration on a piece of paper is you can rotate it whichever direction you want. So that works out great. Then over on this side, I'm going to have just a photo here, have to keep that horizontal picture at the top, and I have 2 more pictures here at the bottom. So what I'm going to be doing is coming on this side over here and building my border, my bars, and then I'm going to come across the middle with that horizontal border. So that makes it really easy. I can adjust that horizontal, that border that goes across the middle. I'm just going to move it up a little bit, come across the middle, give myself plenty of room for those vertical photos. I still have room up here at the top. I do have a couple of more horizontal photos that I will be able to use, and these 2 photos are still 4 by 6s. I will easily be able to come in here and peekaboo pocket this if I wanted to. If my original intention had been to peekaboo pocket this one, but I had already cut it down to size. I think I was trying to put this together for another project and I already trimmed it down to size. But I could have left this middle one at 4 by 6, trimmed these up a little bit narrower, and then peekaboo pocket in the middle here. So lots of options to be able to do your configurations. But now let's talk about getting our border put together over here. I already knew that I was going to be using the Autumn Harvest or the Golden Harvest collection. And I went through my scraps, my project folder that has all sorts of scraps. So I've got some of the green, I've got some of the denim, I really liked this tonal brown color. We're going to use that. The other side, oh, I liked this worn wood color. This piece of paper is from the Shades of Golden Harvest paper pack. And then I've got the same this polka dot that's also from the Shades of Autumn Harvest or Golden Harvest paper pack. So here I've got some things that I'm going with. Now I do kind of have a little bit of a rainbow effect going. I've got some reddish oranges down into yellow, green, blue, the brown. I don't think I included any of the white in here. I feel like I'm missing one of my colors. Oh, I do use, that's it. I use the opposite side to this gold piece is this orange, and I do use that. So I'm treating this a little bit more like a red because it's a really deep orange. The white, this creamy color, I'm going to save for my border. But you can see here, I've got a little bit of a rainbow effect going. I don't want it to be in rainbow order. I don't want that to be like I don't want to call it a distraction. It's just not an element. So when I put my pieces on, I'm going to make sure to mix them up so that the colors are balanced, but they're not in necessarily rainbow order. So all I would need to do here is I would trim my strips to 1 inch wide. All of my strips are going to be just 1 inch wide. I do not need none of these have big enough patterns that I'm worried about doing more than 1 inch. As I mentioned before, if you're using a piece of paper that has a really chunky pattern, or if you're, say I was using this side, the really pretty, this is the gorgeous side from the Golden Harvest. If I wanted to really feature a bigger chunk of this, I would come at that 1 1/4 or 1 1/2 inch, but I'm not using this side. I am just using this side, and I don't care so much about, I don't need to showcase this pattern as much. So I'm just going to come in and just do 1 inch strips with all of these pieces. All right. So you need 12 pieces. We have 12 1 inch segments. If you need to cut some additional ones because you're going to do the banner on the other side, you will have some scraps available. I'm going to have I want a total of 6 pieces of paper. So I will have some leftovers depending on how big your scraps are. If you're cutting a 12 by 1 inch section, when you cut your 4 inch pieces, you'll have 1 left over. You can then take that over to the other side if you want to create some of those banner details on the other side. So I did mention I'm slightly pressed for time today. I have an appointment with my child a little bit later. So what I've done is I've already gone ahead and cut all of those pieces. They're 1 by 4 inch bars. I did this. I actually did it last night, partially because, sometimes you need a little extra time to play around with the colors. So I'm just going to lay them on here and I will show you. So let me put them on here first in kind of what would maybe feel more like a rainbow order. So I've got the reddish orange come down, and then the green, the blue, and the brown. So there's my 6 colors. And I certainly could come in and just repeat that down. Now, I love rainbows just as much as anybody else, and I just didn't necessarily want that to be kind of like the focal point of it. I don't know. I felt to me it was just not quite the look I was going for. So then it was a time to just start mixing it up a little bit. So I actually ended up I started with the brown at the top, and then I mixed in the orange. And then we're going to pull that denim up there, right? We're going to break that blue away from the green. Then I wanted to go, I went dark. So I'm going to come back with a light color. I'm going to go with the yellow. Then I'm going to go back to the dark. I'm going to bring in that orange and then green. So this is the mix I came up with, right? Just breaking up that rainbow order. Once I get that and I feel it's nice and balanced, what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to come up here with the same color, just coming all the way down. Oops, let's see here. Oh, I need to come in this one. Okay, so this is my next, what I was thinking of going here. So I'm just going to leave these as they are for now, because before I put everything into place, I really want to have all of my decorative elements to go. One of the reasons is this bar, this horizontal border piece comes across the middle. So it actually serves as one of the bars in our top to bottom. So you can see here, they have the green at the top, they have green down here, and they have green in the middle. Just imagine if they had set this up where we had green where they have the brown, right? So you're going to want to make sure whatever border element you're creating across the middle, that you have placed it to make sure that your the stacked bars here still make sense color-wise. Now, I played around a little bit to find what I liked, and I created, and actually, I need to create a second one of these, so we'll go through that. I do know this is what I wanted the border to look like. I've got the rustic fence in hot fudge cardstock with the white, that rustic white wood behind it, and I've used that that brown, the lighter brown color as the backing to that, and that just looks really nice. You can see here kind of what it looks like. It stands out really nicely in the middle there, coming across. The lighter brown just showcases really nicely against the dark brown. So that's about where I want my border to come across. I might trim these photos up just a little bit, shorten them up just a smidge. But now I'm going to create that second piece, and I'm going to come across the middle. I created this just the same way that they did. So we're going to start with some hot fudge cardstock, and I'm going to punch my border. They had you using they used the Garland border maker cartridge, which is a knockout style, but you can use really any type of border cartridge here. I would probably stick with a border maker cartridge. I've got rustic fence in there. I would probably stick with a border maker cartridge based on their sizing. If you go with a regular border punch, you're going to have to make this border a little bit wider. Totally doable, but you have to make some adjustments after that. So definitely if you're using a border punch, like you're going to come in with autumn leaves, or you're going to come in with whatever style works for your theme, punch the top piece first, the decorative element. You're going to want to punch that decorative element first, because that's going to dictate how big everything under it needs to be. So if you've punched a border that is, you know, 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches tall, you're going to need to make sure that you adjust everything under it to accommodate the bigger size. For rustic fence, usually when I punch rustic fence, I come in about 1/8 of an inch past the bottom of the border. So I count this as the bottom of the border, the edge that's still attached to the paper. And I'm going to line this up at the the right dashed line. That should give me about 1/8 of an inch past my cut, or my cut line is over here on the left. I'm going to line it up at the dashed line on the right, and that's going to be roughly 1/8 of an inch, which is a really nice border if you just want just the fence look. So now I've got my fence. I am able to go ahead and use their measurements for the rest of this border. So now what I need to do is I need to make the white piece that is behind it, and it is going to be a 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/4 inch. Line this up over here at 1 1/4 inch. Now I need the piece that sits behind that, which I already mentioned was going to be this lighter tan color, and it's going to come in at 1 1/2 inches. So I'll go over here. I could totally have used a, if I wanted to, I could have come in with my decorative blades and cut both sizes. That would give me kind of a fun little border there. You know, just a little bit of a decorative. If I wanted to use, you know, decal or wavy or something like that, that's always an option. I'm going to stick with just the straight blade. Remember, this is the layout from 2008. We didn't have, or 2018, and we did not have our rotary trimmer at that time. It was going to be coming up later that fall or that winter. So now what I'm going to do here is I'll go ahead and assemble these pieces. Grab my silicone mat. You can see here I've already got my little title sticker cluster all ready to go. I just set it on my silicone mat waiting for my layout to be ready to put it all on there. So I can pick it up and move it around a little bit if I need to. I'm just going to kind of shove it up out of the way. Use my repositionable adhesive on my and then I will go ahead and attach this piece to my the brown background. All right, so there we go. Very, very simple border, right? Just very simple. It doesn't need to be too distracting. I got a lot going on in these photos. I do not need to have a lot going on in my decoration. So I do see a quick question about the silicone mat. No, it is no longer available. It was part of a promotional item. I'm hoping that Creative Memories might bring it back. We will maybe wait and see. So you might be able to find it on some of the resale boards. I do not have any extra currently available. Okay, so let me bring this back down. I'll move the mat out of the way. Here's my border. I've already got this piece over here. I'm saving this piece. I do need a kind of a decorative element that's kind of across here. I think I'm going to use the blue leaves. I think that's the plan. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to lay my border on. All right. Now, the first thing I see is I see too much brown right here. Remember, I've got some brown showing through here, and I don't necessarily want this brown so close to that brown. So my option would be to come in and start swapping some things around. I could just shove everything up and bring the brown in like that. So that now I've got the brown, brown, and brown. You don't see a ton of the brown, it's more the white. But I really wish I could see some more of the green in there. So maybe what I'll do is I'm going to swap out trying to figure out how this, nope, I don't want. And to a certain extent, you're never going to achieve perfection. That's just how it is. You can't get too wrapped up in it. I like the yellow. Might just have to stick, and we just won't see as much green. I do see a lot of blue because of, maybe we'll sit there and reverse the blue and the green. So we're just kind of playing around with it a little bit more to kind of figure out how to rebalance the colors a little bit. Okay, I think that's I think is going to work. I've got it balanced about as good as I'm going to be able to balance. I am covering up. I really wish I could get that red in there a little bit more, but I don't think I necessarily can. But I think it's going to be, I think it'll be fine. Okay, so now with that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my cutting mat so I can adhere these things in place. I am going to come off the page a little bit. You can see that they have us adhere. They have a little bit of the, on the left-hand page, we have a little bit of that black showing. So to do that, probably the easiest way is going to be just to either use a T-square. You could probably draw a light pencil line if you wanted to, so you'd know where to line everything up. I'm just going to slide everything over in the order that they go. And I think I'm just going to make this easy. I'm going to come in here with my pencil or and I'm not going to go the full 1/2 inch off. The more I push this over to the side, the less room I have over here for photos. So I'm going to go ahead and but I do want to show a little bit, but I don't need to show a whole lot. I'm going to show just 1/4 inch. I'm going to use my T-square. You could use your just a ruler, making sure that I'm nice and square on my 13 by 13 mat. And I'm going to draw a pencil line. I think that's just going to be the easiest. You could leave your ruler there if you wanted to. That there's not a ton of room to keep things in line. So I'm just hoping that the pencil line will be the easiest for me. Just a light pencil line. You probably can't see it, but I can see it, which is really important. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start in the middle. I'm going to line this up at 6 inches. And the reason I'm going to start in the middle is if I start at the top, by the time I get down to the middle, if I've got any tilt at all, it's just going to amplify all the way down. If I start in the middle and I work and I try really hard to get this middle piece placed nice and square, so it's going to be this orange piece, that if I have any tilt per se, it won't be magnified all the way up and all the way down. It'll be minimized. That tilt will be kind of spread evenly, hopefully. All right, so this piece is going to go in the middle. I'm going to use repositionable adhesive. And I'm going to take my time to place this one and get it as square as possible. Okay, once I have the first piece in, I am not going to use my T-square for the rest of them. I am really trying on this side to line up with that pencil line. I want this edge to be as clean as possible. If I see some variations over here, remember we're cutting, when you cut things to 4-inch lengths, you may cut 1 to 4 1/16 and 1 to 3 15/16 or some little nuance. I can already see just a little variation on this side, which is why having that border element like a sticker, the laser cut border, something there, hides up any issues you're going to have on this left side or the right side. So my left side, I'm going to try really, really, really hard to keep nice and even. The right side, I'm not so concerned about because I've got basically that's going to hide all my sins there. All my poor cutting skills are going to be hidden by this border. All right, so I'm just going to keep working up. Making sure to line up on this left side as best I can. Keeping this as tight along this seam as possible. This is definitely one of those great layouts to use if you got a lot of scraps. You could cut apart mats. Yeah, Deborah's telling me, she's like, I think that I could just come in here, and I totally could. Just put the adhesive right on there. Now that I've established where my left edge is and where my right edge is, it's definitely by far easier. Thank you, Deborah, for spotting that. That second set of eyes for those efficiencies is definitely helpful. And one last here at the top. And I can see, I think I'm a little off. So somewhere in here, I've got one of these pieces is not quite as square as it needs to be, but that's okay, because by the time you get up here to this top, we're talking it's a tiny bit off. And then here, it's not going to be so bad. All right, so then we just keep going down here, working our way down the bottom, towards the bottom of the page. Yeah, I think I could even just come in like that. 3 pieces, we're good. We've got plenty of adhesive now. Couple more here. Anything that hangs over. So you think, oh, I cut 12 pieces. I should be they're an inch each. I should have 12 inches. Well, more than likely you're going to overhang at the top and the bottom, because remember, when you have microscopic differences in what you cut. So maybe, like I said, if you cut one at 1 inch and 1/32, right? That's a tiny bit over 1 inch. What happens is that extra 1/32 of them, we have accumulated 12 extra of the 1/32 of an inch, and that stacks up. 8 of them is 1/4 of an inch. All right. So if you have microscopic differences in your pieces, more than likely when you cut the 12 of them, you're going to overhang at the top and maybe even the bottom. That is another reason why starting in the middle helps, because now I have a little bit to cut off at the top and I have a little bit to cut off at the bottom. If I had started flush at the top, by the time I come all the way down to the bottom, my bottom piece here may only need to be 3/4 of an inch tall. So that's something to think about when you're stacking things like that. Start in the middle. Any differences are going to spread themselves out and be at the top and the bottom, so they should be even. All right, that's the thing to think about. And these are things that, no cutter is going to be able to precisely cut 1 inch every single time, especially when there's a human working the cutter, right? You're going to have little nuances, little things in there. So I've got a little bit at the bottom and a little bit at the top that I'll be able to trim off. Go ahead and grab you could cut it with some scissors. You could cut it with your trimmer. I'm going to use my trimmer at the top, trimmer at the bottom. Yep, I've got just about, not quite, it's about a 1/16 of an inch, not quite an 1/8. So now I'm flush at the top and at the bottom. So now I want to put my border in. Now here's the thing. This is a layered border. So when I put my border on top of it, it kind of bubbles here in the middle. It's not too bad, but that kind of bothers me a little bit. So I think what I'm actually going to end up doing is I am going to put this border down first, leaving a little bit of, I'm going to end up cutting the layered border and just tucking a little bit in. I don't necessarily, I have other border options. I should probably take a peek at those again. I liked the blue here. I just love the blue. There's a lot of blue in the sky. The other options, I had the whole sticker sheet from the Golden Harvest, but I really don't think these are going to be the right look. I have this, but you see what I mean? I think I'm just going to use the blue. I like the blue leaves. I spaced everything out, you know, moved around my denim pieces based on the fact I was going to use the blue leaves. And to be fair, I have several blue leaves left in my collection. I've opened up a few packages for teaching some classes of Golden Harvest. So I have blue leaves left. So we're going to use blue leaves. Okay. I need to come back and make sure I have pieces fit where they are so that I'm placing my border in the right spot. So I'm going to have a 4x6 image at the top. And I have 6-inch photos for the bottom, but I can definitely see I need to come in and trim these. I need to shorten them up a little bit. I'm not going to mess with my 4x6s, the images that are 4 inches tall, because these will be the ones I may use a peekaboo pocket on, and I need to leave them at 4 inches tall to work with that peekaboo. These images all across the bottom, I can shorten up. This one here, I have probably the least amount of room, but here, the other ones you can see, I've got sky at the top. I've got some space at the bottom. This one here, I am going to just trim a little bit off. I think I'm going to be able to go about no more than 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to get out my super squeaky little personal trimmer. This is the one that's going to dictate how much I can come. And it looks like I'm going to be able to come in. I'm going to be able to get 1/4 of an inch off of him. So I'm going to come, my piece here is going to be 5 3/4 inch tall, and it's 3 1/4 or 3 3/4 inch wide. I thought I trimmed these to 3 1/2, but they're 3 3/4 on this page. I think, no, these ones should also be 3. No, he's just a little wider. These two were trimmed to 3 1/2. He's trimmed to 3 3/4. So I'm going to give everything a quick trim. I always match them up just to make sure they're the same height, just in case. Yeah, taking off that 1/4 of an inch is going to be really give me just a little more breathing room, a little bit more space around these photos so that dark brown can come through. I probably could have used Hot Fudge cardstock for this instead of using that pretty brown paper from the designer pack, but I like seeing that wood tone through there. Sometimes sometimes cardstock just doesn't have enough flavor to it. If you design, you want a little bit of something there. Okay. Now I am also, you can see here on this side, I am pretty tight. If I put my border here, it's going to overlap, but I think I need to narrow these up a little bit. I'm going to trim some off of this side. These photos on my left page are at 3 3/4. I'm going to bring them down to 3 1/2. I have space for both of them to do that. 3 1/2. So these photos are going to be 3 1/2 by 5 3/4. Michelle's asking if I'm still going to use peekaboos. I am going to use peekaboos, but I'm only going to use the peekaboos up here. I am probably not going to necessarily worry about, I don't think I don't think I really need to use peekaboos down here. I've got some photos that I could use, but they're largely duplicates of what's already down here. So I'm not going to worry about them too much. So what I can see here is I'm really trying to just get, where do I need to put this border? And it looks like if I put the bottom of the border at 6 inches, and I totally covered up this piece here. Well, I'm going to call it, it's going to be just fine. I covered up the reddish color. Maybe I didn't necessarily want to, but I'm not going to overanalyze it. I'm going to be the only person who's going to pay attention to the fact that maybe I would have liked to see that dark red up here. Okay, so this is going to come in at 6 inches. And I think what I'm going to do, okay, so I'm going to go ahead. This is coming in at 6 inches. I'm going to make sure it's on here straight. I'm going to put this border and just hold things into place. I'm going to use my pencil and I'm going to come in and put a pencil line on this border. Okay. What I'm going to do then is so I've marked where my border is going to come across here. You can barely see those. There's pencil lines there. You can kind of see them. I'm going to cut to the inside. So I'm not going to cut on the pencil line. I'm going to cut to the inside of the pencil line. So I'm making sure to keep my border pieces a little bit longer. I just want to remove the bulk here in the middle so that my border will lay a little bit flatter. It's the only thing when you use these layered borders like that they just, because then what I actually will be able to do, maybe carefully, I can probably come in here. Nope, I was thinking maybe I could pull out. The problem is there's a big foamy piece right there that's making it the layered border. I was thinking maybe I could just pull that out, but no, it doesn't want to come out. Before I put this border on across the middle, I'm going to make sure that everything's square. And then I'll be able to come in and put these photos back in place. Okay, so there is mostly the right or the left page. I'm going to do the right page really quickly, and then I'll come back and show you the left page. I don't have all of my embellishment details figured out. I do have that little cluster that I'm going to put on there. I do know I will use that. This border on the right page, the bottom of my border goes at 6 inches. I know that because that's what I used on my other page. So it's going to go, the bottom of it is at that 6 inches. And then I can attach these photos. And as I mentioned, I will peekaboo pocket the top. I'll be able to use peekaboo pockets along the top if I want to, right here on either one of my 4x6s. I have two 4x6s. This is definitely a configuration that I use quite a bit, where you have the, 3 photos of the same orientation with 2 of the opposite, and then you just rotate your paper to go the direction. If I had 3 verticals or 3 horizontals, I could have rotated this page. The fence would have been a little challenging because it definitely needs to go horizontal, but I could have picked, instead of doing a fence, I could have done a border that would have gone either direction, one of the leaf style borders or so forth. So here we go. That's my left page, or my right page. Coming back over here to my left page. I don't need the cutting mat anymore. So there's the 2 pages next to each other. You can see that comes nice and crossed. So we have a little bit of fancy going on over here, but then we have a lot of stuff going on over here. I really like how using just the tonal papers here, I don't have a lot of a high contrast designer paper over here, allows this to be, I don't want to say chaotic, but there's a lot going on here, right? We've got all sorts of visual things here. That allows for that to happen a little bit more by not having anything too distracting in the papers. I do have this cluster I've done of stickers, and it's probably going to sit right here in the middle. I don't know. I think I can go in right here. Okay. To do this cluster, I'm going to tell you what I did. I used my silicone mat. I lined up the bottom edge of all these border stickers right here on the mat, so I can make sure everything was straight. And then I was able to center my piece, because the stickers are sometimes hard to work with, right? The silicone mat gives the ability to kind of like plop things down. So, and you could have done this if you have the lighter blue silicone mat that's, the 12x12, you could do the same thing. And then of course I was able to just leave it sitting on that silicone mat until I'm ready to put it on my layout. And here we go. We're just going to put it down here. I think I'm going to offset it. I don't think I'm going to have that be straight. I think I'm going to offset it just a little bit. I think that's where it's going to go. I have not pushed it down because I do want to come in. I'm going to see if I can find a little tag thing that I'll be able to come in here with, maybe a little spot that I could do some journaling. I also need to figure out, I was planning to do something that said like scenes from the farm with stickers, and I've got to figure out where that's going to go in. I have some space down here that I could do it. I don't know for sure. One of these that I peekaboo pocket, I might actually include the journaling box in the peekaboo pocket. My handwriting's terrible. I always like to hide it whenever I can. So that's where I've got to kind of figure out all those little details. But in general, this is what it's going to look like, with maybe a little spot over here that's either going to say, like I said, scenes from the farm, something like that, to kind of, I actually need to look at my other layout. It might have, I don't remember what I put on my other layout for a title, because these two pages will go together with another layout that I just need to make sure that I'm not duplicating it. So you turn the page and it has basically the same title. That would be kind of awkward. All right. So thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to get this figured out and all that stuff, but hopefully you're inspired to give it a try. That border goes together really easy. Grab your extra mats, grab your extra scraps, anything. I mean, now you can start looking at those 1-inch segments again and be like, oh, hey, there's a border right here, right? So easy enough to put together, and I also like the idea of just showing you ways that you could adopt those layouts from the blog to be able put more photos on there, right? They give you suggestions, but you make it work for you. I know that's probably the biggest feedback I get when doing layouts is, hearing that I need more photos. I need more photos on the page. So if you liked the blog layout the way it was, you could add peekaboo pockets on all those 4x6s. The blog layout uses 4x6 photos, or you could do like I did and you could chop things down and just make them fit inside the blank space. All right. So thanks so much for joining me today. There was a quick question about joining, how to subscribe to the blog. If you go to Creative Memories blog, you can click on any of the articles and they will, if you're on your mobile device, click on one of the blog posts, scroll down and you should see a thing where it says subscribe. And I think now that I say that, I'm wondering whether I have that correct. So I'm actually going to go over and see if I can pull up their blog and just double check where it is. Yes, they actually have a thing. If you're on your desktop, there will be a thing on the right-hand side that says follow our blog, and you type in your email address and then you'll subscribe to the blog. If you are on my website, I have the same thing on the right-hand side. There's a bar. It says subscribe to the blog. Make sure you type in your email address there. If you're on your mobile device, a lot of times those types of subscription areas are below all of the articles. So you have to scroll down a little bit and you'll find that same thing. You'll find the search function. You'll find the subscription where you can subscribe to the blog so you get those emails into your inbox. Now, the big thing on this, though, is you have to know that depending on how you have your filters set on your email. You may have very strong anti-spam filters. These are automated emails. Some websites or some email will flag them as spam. So if you're not getting them, go check your spam box. Maybe it's over there. If you're on Gmail, it may end up in your promotions tab. And honestly, I keep a lot of stuff in my promotions tab. That's where all my creative memories stuff goes. I delete anything that's not creative memories out of my promotions tab. And that way I have all of the stuff I need from creative memories in one spot. But you may need to check your promotions tab, check your spam. If you want to see those, you're going to have to drag them back over into your inbox, or if it's flagged as spam, you need to tell your email provider that there should be a spot that you can say this is not spam, it's a safe sender, just so you can make sure that you get those to your inbox. But so if you've gone through the subscription part where you have said, I want to subscribe to this blog, and you are not seeing the emails come through week after week, then you need to go ahead and check your spam box, your promotions tab in Gmail, and see if that's where they're ending up. All right. Oh, actually, I take it back. I have a quick note on that. In Gmail, blog posts go to your social tab. So check your social tab. That's where Creative Memories blog posts, the email notifications for them end up in the social blog post or the social tab for Gmail. So that's what I've got for you guys today. I'll be back next week. It's surprisingly the last Wednesday in September. So we'll be doing borders. That will be fun. And then in October, we'll keep coming back with some more ideas. I can tell you that the next big product launch, we'll see. October's new products are going to launch on October 2nd. I did confirm that with Creative Memories. What happens between now and next Friday, I have no idea. But I do know, I did ask specifically when will October's product launch, and they did say October 2nd. So that will be a lot of fun. Just a reminder, if you want to join Tessa and I tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, we're doing our Croptoberfest class. So if you have the Croptoberfest project recipe, the customer bundle with the booklet, the project booklet, we're going to be putting that all together tomorrow. It will be recorded, so if you can't attend it live, you can look for that later on the Meggan and Tessa YouTube channel. If you're catching this at the end of the Facebook Live, this event will be posted later today on YouTube, so you can watch the entire thing. I would love for you to share any of the projects that you make that are inspired by this. You can do so in either Scrapbooking with Meggan or Ideas and Inspiration, the group I share with Tessa. Just use the hashtag that's at the bottom of the handout so we can keep track of all the lovely things. So thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you next week. As far as I know, it's going to be the same time, Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, and we'll do borders. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.